Alright, hello, gang. Welcome to Flower Gothic Slowly Loses Her Will to Live Again. Can y'all hear me okay? Alright, hello, Super Dark, welcome. Welcome to Flower Gothic Loses Her Will to Live once again. Well, we're finally back on that dumbass stream of reading fan fiction. I got a text. Alright, so... Sorry for starting a little late. It's been a day. Because, you know, you have your normal tax bullshit. But. Okay, it's working. I need to turn on the light. 1 second. And it's still on red mode. Yep. So, last time we left off, there was an engagement interview, I think, between Isak and Lucy, and, something Tide Pods. What chapter am I on? Let me check chapter 36, because that's the last one I remember. Early day of engagements, yada yada. Okay. So we stopped at chapter 35. Who the hell does he think he is? Oh yeah, that bullshit. Okay. I just need to pull this up on my cellular. Chat's doing. There we go. Alright, 36! Oh, hi, Grimsley! Welcome! This is the cursed Swedish fan fiction I keep telling y'all about. So now they're engaged, and, we get to see what happens next! I'm actually going to move my, thing to right here. Just so y'all can see, like, the text. Chapter 36. July 30, 2015, Drottningholm Palace. Lucy and Isak wake up early for a day of engagements. This would be the first time Lucy was going to be introduced to her future Duchy of Uppland. They would first be in the town of Uppsala to visit Uppsala University, brought to you by the Department of Redundancy Department, where they would be opening a new library. Uppsala University is the oldest university in Scandinavia, courtesy of Wikipedia. Then they would head to Stockholm. 1 second. We're gonna figure out how. Ignore my, Okay, it's a 55-minute drive. You win this time, Krystal Smith! But next time, I'll get you for sure. Then they would head to Stockholm to meet with representatives of the Swedish ALS Foundation. Lastly, they would travel by boat to the small town of Öregrund to meet the people gathered and to tour the wooden houses and stone church. Lucy chose a pair of black pants and beige, flared sleeve top to wear with her nude LK Bennett pumps. Afraid of a possibly windy day, she wore her hair in a ponytail with simple pearl earrings and a silver watch. As they were being driven to Uppsala, Isak squeezed Lucy's hand and said, "You will do great. Don't be nervous." It's It's hard not to be. My Swedish is not good enough to be able to converse with the people. That's why you're supposed to practice with native speakers, you dumbass. And I'm afraid they won't like that. My life is so hard. Ew. He said that 4 minutes into the drive, and the rest of the 50 minutes, they just sit in silence. Yeah. It's okay. Most here in Sweden speak English, and they're going to respect you learning their culture and language. Like they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. Fun fact, I actually am going to be taking a Roman history course this semester to get my history minor out of the way. So, yeah, we get to see if Rome was indeed built in a day or not. I'm sure the professor will mention it. She did, like, add in the syllabus, like, oh, spring break's gonna be during, this time. Just beware the Ides of March. I know, Lucy says as she stares out the window. Hey, Isaac says sweetly, we are going to your favorite place in the world, a library. When was this established again, kiddo? Kiddo? Buckaroo? Bucko? When was this established again? Buckaroo? You will be in your element. With that, she smiled, and soon, aka 15 minutes of silent driving later, she was stepping out of the car to a flurry of flashing lights. Fuck, I wish the Swedes were here. If this... I know Rocky can't make it today, and I'm not sure what everyone else is up to. We'll ask the Swedes later, okay? Okay. Isaac comes around the car to her side, and they turn to smile at the awaiting media. Then Lucy walks up to the little girl with bright blue eyes holding a bouquet of purple lilies. She bends down to the little girl, brought to you by the Department of Redundancy Department, who smiles and hands them to her. Lucy smiles back and says, Tack så mycket, vad är du? That means, thank you very much, what's your name, in Swedish. I think. Clara! The girls, now there's more than one, they reproduced immediately via mitosis, says shyly. Well, these flowers are beautiful. Thank you for giving them to me. The girl's mother translates to her daughter and tells Lucy she chose purple lilies because she did research into her college sorority. What little girl knows what a sorority is? What? What? From what I'm assuming this girl is like, I don't know, 6. I did not know what a sorority was when I was 6. When I was 6, I thought that everyone went to law school because my mom went to law school. I'm stressed. She saw that the lilies were the flower of it, and one of the colors was purple. Do purple lilies even exist? Gotta find this out now. No, not Amazon, not Amazon. Okay, they do grow. They exist. Where do these grow, though? That's the question. The Swedes carried my sororities because of the princess. Yes! Aw, that's so sweet! Lucy says. She bends down again. Kan jag få en klam? I don't know what that means. And I'm not on my laptop, so I can't copy paste. I don't know what that means. The little girl nods and gives Lucy a big hug. Her mother then tells Lucy, "You are too kind to her, and thank you for speaking a bit of Swedish with her. I know you're just learning, so it is difficult, but you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job, Sweaty." Pet, 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 pet. I'm sure you've had good teachers. Lucy smiled and said, "Thank you for the compliment. I have had great people to teach me, like the family. Estelle has been wonderful teaching me little things." Estelle is 3. She is 3 years old at this point. Krystal Smith, do you have any idea how a toddler works? I can guarantee you, because I don't think a toddler works like that. It means, can I get a hug? Okay. Thank you, Super Dark, for, I'm assuming plugging it to Google Translate. Google Translate? That's how I learned to ask for a hug. Oh, also, there. Okay. Isaac then puts his hand on her back to lead her inside, but not before Lucy could wave at the little girl and her mother, the only 2 people that showed up. Okay. Good morning. Tack for... Okay. Oh, wait. They greet the administrators inside the new library, and Isaac goes to make a speech. Good morning. Tack för att du har Lucy och jag här idag. Jag hoppas att du inte har några imorgon. Jag data tal på engelskan eftersom Lucy fortfarande la sigsplacket. So basically what they're saying here is that thank you for joining me and Lucy today. But since our Swedish isn't that good, we're going to be speaking in English because, yeah. The lizard! Because of the lizard! This is her first event here in Sweden, and I know you all want her to feel comfortable, so I'll continue in English. We are both thrilled to be here, and I'm so happy to be able to introduce Lucy to all of Uppland in Sweden. The crowd erupts with applause before he continues. This library means a lot to my family. Reading is a passion for all of us, though my father, siblings, and I all suffer from dyslexia. Numero uno, there was no evidence before that Isaac suffered from dyslexia. And numero dos, does Madeline have dyslexia? I don't 100% remember. I'm not going to bother looking it up. We know that Victoria, Katpu, and Carl whatever have it. So, whatever. We found solace in books after tutors were able to help us deal with our disability. We are pleased that this library will play a central role for those here at Uppsala University and the community as a whole who are struggling with the disability that plagues so many. We are honored that you have chosen to name it after my beloved grandfather, whom we, including my father, did not have the ability to know. I'm sure he is looking down and pleased to know how much help this library will provide. Thank you all for coming and naming it after him. Thank you all for coming, if you know what I mean. Lucy and Isaac then unveil a plaque for the new Prince Gustav Adolf Library. Their next stop was in Stockholm, where they met with representatives of the ALS Foundation in Sweden at their headquarters, brought to you by the Department of Redundancy Department. Lucy took the lead during this engagement and explained why the disease was close to her heart. Oh boy, we're gonna get some more depressing brought to you by the Department of Redundancy Departments, aren't we? Bitches, bitches, bitches. I want to thank you all for meeting with us. ALS is a disease with too little funding and research, and as you all know, few know and understand the disease. I was one such person until my mother was diagnosed with the disease earlier this year. I see firsthand. I'm assuming that was supposed to be I now see firsthand, or I know firsthand. What so many others have suffered from for many years. ALS advocacy will be a focal point of my work as your new princess. And I hope that, together, we could truly make a difference to where ALS will be no more. Okay, an idea just popped in my head. Y'all have seen Friendship is Witchcraft, right? Friendship is Witchcraft, the parody series. Doesn't matter. Okay, so in the parody series, Twilight Sparkle wants to be a princess and basically manipulates and uses her unicorn magic to, like, just make everything go her way. What if that's what Lucy can do? She just warps and manipulates reality to make it appease to her. She's a witch, and her ultimate goal is to become a princess. I mean, that would explain a lot in this fan fiction, but I don't think Krystal Smith has enough depth in her writing to convey that. The royal court had prepared to video her remarks to post them on the monarchy's website, YouTube, and Instagram to explain more about Lucy and the work she would be doing for Sweden. They were posted online within moments of the couple boarding the boat in Stockholm to travel to the small town of Öregrund. They arrived in Öregrund around an hour later in silence and were greeted by the mayor of the town at the harbor. Many of the residents had gathered at the harbor, all like 10 of them, to see the couple. As a result, they decided to do an impromptu walkabout there, before heading to the center of town where they would do another. The crowds loved their down-to-earth manner and getting to meet their future princess in person. God, this fanfiction is making me lose the will to live. Although you all know that, right? Right. After arriving in the center of the town, they proceeded on their second walkabout, where a group of teenage girls were squealing to see the handsome prince. Honestly, it's not as bad as previous chapters. I mean, at least we're getting some degree of character development, I guess. I mean, this one isn't, like, straight up bad. It's just boring. It's just boring. Lucy laughed and asked them, "Would you all like a photo with him?" They all shook their heads enthusiastically, while Isak looked dumbfounded at the attention. Lucy took one of the cameras and took the photo, and much to her amusement, as she stopped the picture, the two girls on each side of Isak kissed him on the cheek. Isak turned bright red as Lucy said, "I guess I have some competition." "Oh, yeah, that's cool. A bunch of teenage girls want to fuck my, grown fiance. That's cool. What the fuck's wrong with you?" The couple were then given a, private tour of the stone church and wooden houses before they greeted some of the assembled media before returning home. They smiled for photos and answered a few questions thrown their way. One such reporter asked Lucy what she thought of her first royal engagement and her future douchey. She smiled and said, "I really enjoyed it. The people here are so friendly and welcoming. I'm so glad to have gotten to meet so many of them and look forward to many more visits and meetings in the future." Wow. How do you think she did today, Your Royal Highness? Isak responded, "Very well. I'm very proud of her." "I'm so proud of you, Sweaty." And it was great to see how loved she already is by the people. Another asked Lucy, "Were you nervous at all?" "Oh, of course. I was quite nervous at the beginning, but having Isak with me really calmed my nerves, as did the wonderful people I met today." "We heard you speaking some Swedish earlier today." "No shit. How is learning the language?" "I did speak a bit this morning to the young girl who was sweet enough to bring me flowers. Learning a new language is a process, but I am working on it every day. It's difficult, but I am determined." Isak interrupted. "She is doing a wonderful job and is more advanced than she believes. She just has to be more confident speaking it, and that will come." They were then asked how the wedding planning was going, to which Isak said, "Rather well, I'd say." He gave a heartwarming and touching speech at the ALS headquarters today. "Lucy, first of all, we are so very sorry to hear of your mother having the disease, and it is brave of you to speak out so openly. Are we to assume that will be one of your first patronages?" Another asked. She clearly said, "ALS advocacy will be a focal point of my work as your new princess, reporter." So, no shit! thank you, and yes, that is my plan. ALS advocacy is a passion of mine, and I will work tirelessly for awareness and raising funds for research. Isaac then thanked the media for their questions, and they headed back to their car to Drottningholm Palace. Lucy had only a couple more days in the country before she was going to return home for a while to help care for her mother. Hey, Talbot, welcome! You missed absolutely nothing. All that happened was that Lucy, who we've decided is doing the Twilight Sparkle and Friendship is Witchcraft thing, where she's bending reality and people to achieve her own wishes, and she did like her first tour of Upland. That's really all that happened. September 5, 2015. Beyblade Stadium! That reminds me, I actually do want to ask my dad to take me with him when there's another like game, his college against Tennessee, just to experience it. Lucy and her parents arrived to their parking location and were happy to have a handicapped parking tag to park closer to the bus to get them to the stadium. Significant walking was beginning to really take a toll on Anne. They waited at the bus stop and were driven to the stadium across campus. They walked up a less steep ramp to their seats and JJ! They had to stop several times to allow Anne to breathe. When they were to JJ! Thomas walked down the stairs ahead of Anne while Lucy walked behind her to get to row 3. They enjoyed the game, but it took a lot out of Anne to get back up the stairs and hill to the bus. The next week was a bit harder, as they realized that Anne could no longer walk up the 2 ramps to their seats after a heartbreaking loss to Oklahoma at home. Your mother is dying, and you care about a fucking football game! What the fuck? The family decided they would have to make a change. Anne would only relent to accepting the elevator ride. She was determined to walk the rest of the way. She did not want the disease to slow down or defeat her. The next week, after a note from the doctor sent to the athletic department, an elevator pass was given for Anne. Anne and Thomas rode the elevator to the upper level and, thanks to Thomas knowing an usher, were escorted through the press box to make the walk shorter to their seat. Lucy did not want to take up room in the elevator for someone else who needed it. Aw, so sweet. So she walked up the ramp and waited on her parents at their section. The absolute priorities of this lady. Her priorities are whack and I hate it. September 26, 2015, Washington, D.C. Will had flown his family out for the preseason game on Sunday against the Indianapolis Colts, and they were staying in his townhouse for the weekend. They were able to watch the Tennessee game against Florida on television. It took place in Florida, and the Vols... Remember, they don't strike fear in it, and the Tennessee Volunteers do not strike fear in people. Almost had it won. It was the team Anne wanted to see the Vols beat so badly. She kept telling her children and husband that she just wanted to see the Gators get beat by the Vols. For her, that was winning the championship. The kicker made a valiant effort to kick a 52-yard field goal, but was wide right. Whatever that means. I don't know what that means. Whatever. Anne was crushed, and Lucy more so. Your mother is dying! Keep it together. Not gonna divulge personal shit on stream. That's not a good thing to do. Deep breaths, deep breaths. It's going to be okay. Well, Thomas, the father, Will, the brother, and Anne, the Holy Ghost, went out to dinner. Lucy stayed at the apartment. She locked herself in her room and bawled her eyes out. She was angry and crushed for her mother. She was angry at God for letting her mother be in pain and see that loss. .jpg. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Angry at God. Yep. God is canon in this universe, apparently. She turned her phone off and drank a bottle of wine. Me AF? That's my form of self-care. I just get off technology and drink. God is canon and he's a villain. She finally fell asleep before her parents returned, worried that she did not pick up her phone. She then felt guilty for putting them through stress due to her breakdown. Your breakdown? Honey, you're a millennial. That's just a part of life. Up next, Lucy fights God. She's more angry at God than her mother's plan. Hey, Sky. Welcome. Quick question. Are there any Swedes in the chat? Are there any Swedes in the chat? We have questions. We have questions for the Swedes. Luckily, the next day, the family had prime parking beside the stadium with an elevator pass and sat in Will's family box. They all enjoyed the game as the... I'm not saying that team name. Beat the Colts 35-20. They were turned home just a couple days later. We would have seen what happened in the game, but that would have led to character development. That's illegal in this fan fiction. October 10, 2015. Nowhere. It's in nowhere. This takes in the void. This part takes place in the void. Lucy's sorority sisters came in for the game against Georgia and stayed at their home in Wheat. Her friends offered to stay somewhere else so not to impose, knowing Anne's condition. However, Anne, the mother, and Thomas, the father, were insistent. Anne wanted the girls there, and their trip to Wheat made her weekend. She tried her best to dote on them while they were there. Her strength and determination to not let the disease slow her down was inspirational to them all. Hi, Eva Leon Fangirl 31. Sorry if I'm just referring to y'all by your usernames. I do not remember. I can't put, like, Discord names onto Twitch names. She tried her strength and... Okay. Anyway, we're just showing that, but that would have led to character development. The girls went to Beyblade Stadium to watch the Vols play the Dogs. Who are the Dogs? The Georgia Bulldogs, okay. Oh, I'm an idiot. I'm just looking for fanfics. Okay, well, welcome. This is a cursed Swedish fanfiction where a girl from Tennessee named Lucy gets engaged to the Prince of Sweden. One of the non-existent princes. He's not canon to the Swedish cinematic universe, if you will. It was a nerve-wracking game, and by the fourth quarter... Oh, God, more sports jargon. I hate this. Lucy was about sick to her stomach. The Vols had mounted a comeback, and there were just a few seconds left on the clock. Georgia had to pull a Hail Mary and did a throw to the end zone if they wanted to win. Whatever that means. The quarterback received the snap and dropped back to pass, whatever that means. He threw a perfect spiral to the right corner of the end zone where the Tennessee cornerback batted it down. Whatever that means. The Vols had won over one of their biggest rivals, and Lucy was in tears because she was so happy they had beaten the Dogs for the first time in 5 years. Oh, you're from Iceland. Welcome. I do not speak any Icelandic, I'm sorry. But you're very welcome to the stream. Do you happen to know anything about the Swedish royals? Because that's what this fanfiction's about, for the most part. When they got home, she ran the house to her mother. She gave Anne a big hug and said, "Oh, Mama, they won that just for you!" Anne was crying tears of joy, too. Anne is the mother. November 14, 2015, still in the void. Lucy woke up at 4 a.m. and was driven to Tennessee's campus for morning practice. Okay? She was getting the chance to twirl once again, but this time with the alumni band during the pregame parade and halftime. Apparently that's a thing. Thomas's niece, Thomas the father, knew someone who was able to get Anne, the mother, and him 2 tickets in the handicap section of Beyblade. Anne had been unable to make a game since Western Carolina when she used the elevator. Anne was thrilled to be able to go to another game, this time in a wheelchair, to see her daughter twirl in the field once more. When Lucy stepped onto the field, she turned to see her mother smiling brightly at her from the wheelchair section. Apparently she has supervision. Iceland does not have a monarchy. They have a president. She said a silent prayer to God, remember he's canon, to allow her to twirl the best and be as perfect as she could be for her mom. She knew this was possibly the last time she would see her twirl. After performing perfectly with the other alumni majorettes, she turned to see her mother. She had tears in her eyes just looking at how happy her mother looked while looking at her, and we would have shown the routine, but that would have led to character development. It was all she could do to not go into hysterics on the field. She thanked God for the performance and her mother being there. November 26, 2015. Thanksgiving Day. Still in the void. Isaac decided to fly over to the States to celebrate Thanksgiving with Lucy's family. He arrived on Tuesday ahead of the holiday on Thursday. No shit. Got her to win a heel-face turn. He did. He's now a protagonist. That morning, they woke up to watch the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Anne's family had told her not to bring anything, but she again was determined. She made her traditional pecan, it's not pecan, it's pecan, fight me! Pies the evening before, and Lucy made the sweet tea, mashed potatoes, and deviled eggs the next morning before traveling to her uncle's house to celebrate the holiday. It was a sombre type holiday because Anne was no longer the Anne they all remembered. She could not talk and was getting strangled with almost every bite she took. She was losing a lot of weight and eating little. Lucy was glad Isaac was there to comfort her as she watched her mother struggle. As they left her uncle's house, everyone made sure to give Anne a hug. No one knew at the time that Anne had made a decision that would change everything. She was going to get a feeding tube. Okay, actually I gotta respond to a couple texts real quick, so I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry for getting I guess a bit emotional there? If you know what's going on, you know. No need to worry anyone else. December Chapter 37, December 12, 2015, Knoxville, Bumfuck, Tennessee. Will was sitting on Lucy's bed, and they were discussing their mother's procedure the next day for her to get the feeding tube inserted. You know, sis, I worry. Going under anesthesia could do strange and have an adverse impact, especially on the sick. I just worry about Mom going under anesthesia, Will said. What do you mean? Like she won't wake up? Lucy said in a panicked voice. It has happened. It just worries me that she won't be the same after she gets back from the hospital. Will, Lucy, nothing is ever the same when someone is dying. Sometimes the person you knew and loved is still alive, but dead inside. Everything you knew about them is gone, replaced with a shell of what they once were. That's just what happens. Don't care. Email notification. I know, but for some reason, he wants us to stay at home. Brought to you by the Department of Redundancy Department. They have to... I can't be in a group call right now. I'm busy. This is legit the right style of a 10-year-old. Yep. Her coping mechanism is just writing a self-insert fan fiction. I mean, you do you, but this is just sad, especially considering your age. They have to be there so early, though, at 5 a.m. I'll be a nervous wreck. I am a nervous wreck. You and me both, babe. I am, too. We just have to say a prayer that all will be okay, because remember, God is canon. Oh, I'll definitely do that tonight, Lucy said as her brother got up to go back to his room. Okay, apparently he doesn't live in D.C., and also, we're not going to show the prayer because that would lead to character development. Their father and mother, Tom and Anne, left the house at 4 a.m. the next morning. Thomas called Will and told him when Anne was back in surgery. Knowing that Lucy was sick with worry, Thomas told Will not to wake Lucy until after he called back when Anne was in recovery. A couple hours later, Thomas called Will to tell him that Anne was in recovery and doing fine. Will went and told his sister. Both went back to bed knowing it would still be a couple of hours before their parents returned. Not gonna question it, not gonna question it. We're just gonna get this over with. Little did they know, it would be one of the last times they would get a good night's sleep that... Oh no, is Anne going to die this chapter? Oh God. Did you know old people are scared of going in anesthesia? Probably heard some horror stories that contributed to this. I mean, probably? I wouldn't be surprised. After Anne and Thomas, the mother and father, got home, Anne went to bed. She had eaten a baked potato on the way home since the tube could not be used for 24 hours after insertion. They all expected her to sleep after being under anesthesia. The day and evening passed without any issues. Lucy had called Isaac to tell them that the procedure had gone well. Shit. She's going to die this chapter. Oh my God. This is not going to be fun for any of us. December 14, 2015. No longer in the void. Wheat, Tennessee, Kingston family home. Thomas wakes Lucy up at around 7 a.m. She could tell something is wrong by his voice. Will had returned back to Washington, D.C. for his football commitments. I'm taking your mother back to the hospital. She's in too much pain and it's not normal, he said as he choked back tears. Go in the room with your mother while I run to the office quick, little lamb. Know I'll be out. My sister's on her way up to get with us. You stay here and finish up your studying. For law school? She's becoming a princess. She doesn't need law school, especially American law school. She's going to be representing Sweden, not America. Lucy tried to argue, but her father told her that she would be of no service at the hospital. He would call her if she needed to come up. Lucy helped to get her mother in some clothes other than pajamas to go to the hospital. Her aunt, Martina, why did they need to name the aunt? It doesn't matter. Helped Lucy and Thomas get Anne to the car. Before they left, Lucy hugged her mother while she sat in the car. Brought to you by the Department of Redundancy Department. I wonder whether Krystal will act out her fantasies and give her mom a Swedish state funeral. We're such assholes. No. I theorize what's going to happen is that they're going to have a private funeral either in Tennessee or somewhere in Montreal because, you know, Lucy's also from Quebec for some reason. But all of the Swedish royals are going to be there. Even the dead ones. So, probably not a stage funeral, but it might as well be a stage funeral kind of deal. Tears began to pour out of her eyes, so Mother softly said, "It'll be okay, baby." She was so upset because, due to the significant pain Anne was suffering, she told Lucy, "I just want to die," when she walked into her room that morning. I'm resisting the urge to say, same. Thomas, Anne, and Martina arrived back home a few hours later. The hospital had just given Anne a morphine shot and sent her home. Thomas said that they did not seem overly concerned. He spoke to them about when Anne's food for the tube would arrive, and they told him it should be that day. The day passed with no food arriving. The next day, Friday, came and gone without the food, too. The nurse from the hospital who was due to do a follow-up after Anne's procedure showed on the second day. She was confused as to why there was no food, but promised to look into it. She advised that the family put the Ensure drink in the feeding tube for meals so that she was at least getting some nutrients. You know, this is why private health care is not the best option. Just saying. On a Saturday night, after giving Anne the Ensure in her feeding tube, her breath got shallow. Lucy panicked as she sat by her bedside. Thomas jumped up and called his sister to rush to the house. Martina, the sister, called a cousin, who was a nurse, to come to the house. Lucy sent a quick text to Will as her mother patted for Lucy to sit on the bed and grabbed her hand. Oh no. If this is the death scene, I'm suing. When Martina arrived, she immediately said, "Anne, let's pray." Remember, God's canon. If I just spank meatballs through my mom's food tube. Oh God, we're going to hell, aren't we? They sat there and prayed for Anne, for her life, for her comfort, and for strength. Martina and Thomas went to the kitchen afterwards, where Lucy could hear her father wailing like a child. "Real men cry!" And it almost broke her. When Thomas returned to the room, he sat beside Anne's side of the bed. He told her it was okay and that she could go on if she was ready to meet Jesus. He then said, "And I'll be along shortly." Take a shot every time the characters say royal. Oh God, I'm gonna be smashed by like chapter 5 then. That's all Lucy could handle. She broke out into uncontrollable sobs, looking at her father saying, "No, Daddy, no! I can't lose her, and I can't lose you! I can't survive! I can't handle this!" Honey. Honey. Denial is just one of the stages of grief. And people die. They die and return to the elements in which they came from. And that's normal. Still sad, but there's no use trying to deny the inevitable. Jesus is canon now. She buried her head into the pillow and her body was shaking so much from fear and sadness. Her cousin, who was a nurse brought to by the Department of Redundancy Department, got there and checked Anne out. The problem had been that Thomas and Lucy had met the bed knocked out too soon after putting the insurer into the tube. There was a wait time of 30 minutes, but the nurse from the hospital failed to tell them that. Anne's breathing got better and the cousin left. By this point, Lucy was infuriated. She called the emergency hospital line about her mother's food. "Good evening, my name is Jan. How can I assist you?" the lady said on the phone. Lucy then proceeded to tell her about the lack of food and cooperation from the hospital. "Well, I don't know what you want me to do," the woman said. I'm assuming whoever is on the line is like some receptionist or call assistant who wasn't given like any training on what to do if there's an emergency because it's minimum wage and they can't, spend the extra $5 on training her for emergency situations and legitimately has no power over hospital food. Lucy snapped. "Well, for one, you can find out why her food still isn't here. This is absolutely ridiculous. This is medical malpractice. You can also find out where the hell her nurse that was supposed to show up back up today. There is no excuse for this. I want food for my mother and a nurse down here as soon as possible." Well, it is a Saturday night. Intentionally making side one-off characters antagonists for the sake of being antagonists is not how you write an antagonist, Krystal Smith. Krystal just tells what the characters say instead of having the characters say the things. Yep, pretty much. That's how her writing works. Lucy's temper was flaring. "I don't give a damn what day of the week it is. Find out or you'll be tied up in so much litigation at that hospital that your grandchildren will need lawyers." The nurse's tone changed. "I'm sorry, I'll check into this and have the nurse get down here first thing tomorrow." The next day came with no food or a nurse. This time, Thomas called about it. The next morning, the phone rings at the house. Lucy had gone to her parents' room to lay on the bed with her mother as her father went to work. She did not get to the phone in time, but the nurse left a message. "Hi, Miss Kingston. This is Nurse Laura. I was told to visit Anne first thing this morning, and I will be here there in 10 minutes. Lucy sprung to her feet to put on regular clothes and call her father. He raced home and got there not long after the nurse. She promised to check into the food situation, too. She also advised that they consider hospice. Swedish royal lawyers. Based on real events for her, this nurse is the evilest human in existence. Yeah. This is like how a 12-year-old writes through their tragedies. Krystal Smith was 25. Later that afternoon, Laura called Thomas. She told him that Anne's food had not been ordered because the doctor who ordered the surgery did not have the power to order the food. It had to go through another doctor to get to a nutritionist. It would be another couple of days before the food arrived. Put on regular cloths, the quickest dress-up scene in a monarchist fic. Pretty much. Meanwhile, Anne's condition continued to deteriorate. Food arrived 2 days later, and they began feeding Anne with the ordered food. Brought to you by the Department of Redundancy Department. Her condition worsened. Lucy spent hours on the phone at night crying to Isaac. He would stay on the phone, just letting her cry herself to sleep. He did not want to let her be alone in her sadness. The next morning, Thomas went to work, but said he would be back in an hour. Anne could no longer walk to the bathroom and assisted, and it took both Lucy and Thomas to get her to the bathroom each time. Anne patted Lucy's arm to let her know she had to go to the bathroom. Lucy told her to wait just a few minutes until her dad got back. However, by this time, the ALS had started impacting her brain, turning into a patient suffering from Alzheimer's. Oh, God. Oh, God. Anne attempted to get up on her own. Lucy rushed to her side to try and help her to the bathroom by herself. As Anne stood up, Lucy helped her take a few steps. Anne lost her footing and began to fall. Lucy grabbed her and tried not to let her fall. Wow, that is not how ALS works. Um, I know that Anne has a very specific form of ALS. Don't remember the kind, but ugh. She held on, tried to hold her up. Anne had no strength, and her body was dead weight. Lucy, although trying with all the strength she had, dropped her mother, instead of, gently placing her on the ground. She tried to stay strong as she finally got in touch with her father. Daddy, Mama had to go to the bathroom, and I tried to help her, but she fell. I can't get her up. I'm so horrible. Please come help me. I'm sorry. She's in the floor. She clipped to the floor, obviously. I put a pillow behind her back. I was able to sit her up. He told her he was flying 80 miles an hour down the highway to get home. He made it home in less than 5 minutes when he had been 15 minutes away. He rushed to the house and helped Lucy lift her mother. They took her to the bathroom and then back to the bed. Lucy went into the living room and collapsed. Her father hugged her as she sobbed. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm a horrible daughter, Daddy. I dropped my mama. She trusted me. I'm horrible. He looked her in the eyes as he was crying and said, Lucy, this isn't your fault. You just aren't strong enough to lift her. It's okay. It's okay. Lucy ran to her room and cried herself to sleep. Later that afternoon, she woke up to find Will sitting on her bed. Hey, sis, don't be hard on yourself, please. I can't help it, Will. And what are you doing here? You still have 2 more games. Oh shit, is the mom dead? She's going to die. And we get to see the pseudo-state funeral. I'm on leave. The team excused me so I could be here with you all. December 25, 2015. It was apparent that Anne was in her final days. She was frail and constantly cried. The pain from the ALS had kicked into overdrive. You could not even hold her hand as it would cause such severe pain. Her memory was about gone, and often she did not recognize her children. She really only knew her father, who had flown in from Quebec. You're not strong enough to lift her. That is a shitty thing to say for comfort. She cried when Thomas left the room with her, even if other family members were in there too. She was a confused and weak woman, struggling as her mind and body slipped away more and more by the second. You know, as someone who has a family member suffering from Alzheimer's, I do not appreciate these simple sentences trying to explain what Alzheimer's is and how it impacts Anne without any emotion, because it is a really hard thing to live through, okay? Her family did not come to the house due to the heavy rain on Christmas Day. I mean, she's from Tennessee. Canadians are apparently exotic to Tennesseans. They came the next day and saw how bad of shape Anne was in. They tried to enjoy the day, but they all knew it was their last Christmas with her. Tears were flowing as they all left that night. I don't think Krystal has ever seen an emotion in the wild. Probably not. December 30, 2015, McGee Tyson Airport. Isaac walks up to Will after gathering his luggage. He sees that Will looks exhausted. He can see the strain in his eyes. They get to the Kingston residence about an hour later. Isaac goes to comfort Lucy, who gives him the latest updates, telling him that hospice was only giving her days to live. Lucy and her grandfather would stay up all night, while Thomas, her brother, and Isaac slept. Okay? When they got up, it was a shift change, and they would go to bed. This went on and on for days, but no one was getting much rest or sleep. Lucy figured she was getting an hour of sleep per day at the most, and she was self-consciously eating due to the stress. Well, the death arc is really dragging for long. Yeah, I mean, I already feel depressed because we all know Anne is going to die. In fact, she's probably going to die next. January 8, 2015, apparently, the timeline reset. Kingston family residence. Anne was in horrible shape. She could no longer even go to the bathroom at all. She was in adult diapers. She could not move. She was trapped in her own body. A huge bed sore had developed on her butt from the lack of movement. The nurse was due that night, and Lucy's grandfather called his other children to let them know they needed to come down to say goodbye. It could be any minute before she went to heaven, because Christianity is canon. That night, Lucy went to her room around 6 a.m. Everyone else was awake. It was about 8 a.m. when Thomas told Lucy she needed to come see her mother. Mottling had begun to form on her legs and body. She knew when that happened, it was only a matter of hours, if not minutes. January 9, 2015. She went back to her room to try to sleep. At 1 in the afternoon, Thomas came to tell Lucy she had to say goodbye. Lucy walked in the room as Amazing Grace was playing on a CD with Elvis singing it. Thomas, Will, Martina, and her grandfather were all in the room. Her father told her not to touch her mother because it could cause her to hold on. Anne was in so bad a shape that being alive was punishment. Jesus is canon and he's Swedish. I mean, I understand like feeling empathetic towards this because Krystal Smith based this off her real life. And honestly, it's just but I just feel depressed. I don't give a shit about Lucy. I don't give a shit about Isaac. I'm just sad. Remember it being your typical I'm a princess, now ooh woo fic. Oh god, those were the good old days, but now we have to deal with this depressing shit. Lucy was crying as she told her mother, "Mommy, I love you so much. It's okay. You can go be with Jesus. I'll take care of Daddy. I'll make you proud, I promise. I love you forever." Lucy then saw that her mother's breathing was even more shallow. She raced to her room and laid in her bed. A few minutes later, she heard footsteps coming down the hall. She knew it was her father and what he was going to say. Yeah, it was the self-insert Ewu Princess Fic and now turn 2. I need to cope with the reality that my mom is dying painfully by self-inserting the Swedish monarchy and also football. Well, okay, Isaac and Lucy are not married yet. They're still engaged. But, yeah, he's becoming a more minor character while we, go through the tragedy of Anne Kingston's death. He walked in and sat on her bed. He looked into her eyes and said, "She's gone." Lucy pulled the covers over her eyes and wailed like a baby. Okay, you could have just ended it with "she's gone." Just saying. He hugged her and cried too. He said he was going to call to let the rest of the family know. Isaac then came into the room. Lucy collapsed into his arms. What are the comments for this? Tears were streaming down my face while I read this chapter. I'm not crying. I'm just depressed. Okay, chapter 38. We'll read a chapter 39, I guess. Chapter 38. January 9, 2016, Kingston Family House. Lucy was speechless. She had no idea what to do or how to act. She no longer had her mother to lean on. Lucy, honey, your mother was dying. You had time to accept that. You can't just spend the rest of your mother's life trying to pretend that everything can go back to normal. She's dead. I'm sorry I have such like a existentialist, maybe nihilistic view of this. It's just, you know, I don't know. To spend time with and help plan her wedding. Isaac was Lucy's rock during this time. You know, that could be a chapter, but that would lead to character development. Family and friends dropped in all evening after Anne had passed away. Many brought food to try and make things easier on the family. Isak had called his parents and siblings after consoling Lucy that afternoon. He knew, and Lucy did too, the royal court would have to send out a press release about Anne's death. No, they wouldn't. Anne's a private citizen. He was her rock. You know because I told you so. It was agreed that it would be sent out the following morning at 8 a.m. Swedish time. Lucy cried most of the night while Isak held her in his arms. She knew the press release would be out soon and all of Sweden would be sending their condolences. But she did not want to read the press release. She was not ready to do that before they even had arrangements for the funeral. At 8 a.m. exactly, the press release was sent out to Swedish media. The American international media quickly picked up on it, as well. It's state funeral time. It's not going to be a state funeral. It's just going to be a funeral where all the royal family's going to be there. But, I'm expressing doubt that the royal court would issue a press release in regards to Anne Kingston's death. State funeral without the state. Statement with His Majesty the King. It is with profound sadness that I announced that Prince Isak's fiancée, Miss Lucy Kingston's mother, Miss Anne Kingston, passed away yesterday afternoon at her home in Tennessee. The royal family and I sent our heartfelt sympathy and prayers to the Kingston family during this difficult time. Prince Isak was with Lucy in Tennessee during this time. The family requests that their privacy be respected and that they'll be able to grieve in private. Anne was a wonderful woman who the Queen and I had the joy to meet. A light has gone from this world, but we rest easy knowing she is no longer in pain and suffering. The entire Swedish media is just reporting on just the American mob. Princess Madeline posted a heartfelt message on her official Facebook page as well. Because again, everyone bends over backwards for Lucy. As saying, all my and my family's love and prayers to my future sister-in-law and dear friend Lucy during this difficult time. I ask that you will send your thoughts and prayers to her family, and our family too, as Lucy and her family are part of our extended family. We are heartbroken with the news. Okay, well, Madeline, that kind of makes more sense, though, because that's just Madeline's personal page. It's not like sending a fucking press release! You know, I don't blame Krystal for dumping this on us and the rest of the world. This is only possible because monarchs have adapted to the modern media landscape by selling themselves as everybody's friends and families in this essay. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Crown Princess Victoria and Prince Daniel had an event in Solna that afternoon where the media asked them about Lucy and the loss of her mother. Victoria said, obviously, it is terrible news. We can't imagine what she is going through. All our thoughts and prayers are with them at this time. Lucy is a wonderful woman, and we'll support her and her family, who is also our family, in any way that we can. A reporter then asked, will you travel to the United States for the funeral? I hope to. See? I told you! I told you! However, as I am in my 3rd trimester, I have to listen to the doctors on whether or not I can travel. Oh yeah, Victoria's pregnant. They have totally forgot about that. This all sounds so American, decidedly not Swedish. Do we have any Swedes in the chat? Someone get, like, Rocky or Ark or something in chat. So we can confirm that this is definitively American and not Swedish. Can someone do that, please? Thank you all very much, she said as she and Daniel walked away. And they waddled away, waddle, waddle, waddle. And they waddled away, waddle, waddle, waddle. As someone else who is American and not Swedish, I agree. Good. On Monday, January 11th, the family went to the local funeral home to make arrangements. I just read ahead. Oh no! Oh no! No! They decided on a closed casket with the receiving of friends and funeral to be held Wednesday night. I would say it's a Calvinist thing, but that only survived on one side of the Atlantic. The burial would be Thursday morning with a memorial service in Quebec that Sunday. Part of it's going to be in Quebec for Anne's family there. I don't like what's coming up. On Tuesday evening, King Carl Gustaf, Queen Sylvia, Princess Madeline, Christopher O'Neill, Princess Leonor, Prince Nicholas, Princess Estelle, Prince Carl Philip, and Princess Sophia arrived in Tennessee for the funeral service and the next evening. Victoria was advised not to fly so close to her due date, and Daniel stayed behind her with her. Then why did Estelle go? Why did they agree for Estelle to go if her parents are staying behind? That makes no sense! They all bent over backwards for Lucy! They all bent over backwards for Lucy! I cannot stand this! It's a glitch in the timeline! After a request from both Isaac and Lucy, as they were afraid if she went to labor, he would miss the birth. Their due date was in March. If their son, it was a boy, was born in mid-January, I'm pretty sure that would be a preterm birth. Potentially prematurely. Actually, the entire country of Sweden revolves around this girl from Bumfuck, Tennessee. Actually, let me do some math. I'm gonna use a calculator. No, wait. I need the date calculator. So, the only countries in the world: Sweden, United States, and Canada. You know what letter of her preemie? Nothing surprises me at this point. Okay. When was Oscar? 2nd of March, 2016. So, that is the end day. Actually, I'm gonna, instead, going to subtract it. That might make it easier on me. Subtract about, we'll subtract 40 weeks. Calculate new date. So potential date of conception is May of 2015. Late May of 2015, potentially early June. Unless if, then subtract, let's subtract 38 weeks instead. June 10, 2015, conception date. So, we're gonna assume, for the sake of this video, that June 10th was the day Prince Oscar was conceived. Count days. Start day, 2015, the 10th of June. This feels so wrong to do, but we're doing it anyway. And Tuesday evening, so that would be January 12, 2016. With the math, that would be 216 days, or 30 weeks and 6 days. Now, over pregnantly trimesters. 30 weeks is just when fetal viability happens. Victoria would be in her third trimester, just starting her third trimester, but fetal viability is still ongoing, and the child would be preterm. So, Krystal Smith clearly has no idea how pregnancy works. The point is, the chances for Victoria having her child in January would be very low unless the pregnancy had problems. Search results are gonna be... My search results are already fucked, okay? Stell begged her parents to let her travel to the States so she could see her Auntie Lucy and Uncle Isaac. You're 3. 3-year-olds don't have rights. Lucy was touched that they took the time out of their hectic schedules to support her and their family. Well, they bent over backwards for Lucy. What can you expect? They came in and went through the receiving line just as any others, and they sat in the congregation just a row behind Lucy's maternal aunts and uncles. They also attended the burial the next morning, where an extremely emotional Lucy broke down as the singer sung How Great Thou Art at the graveside. Of course, some from the Swedish media found out about the arrangements. Of course they did. Even though it's a private funeral, why did the Swedish royals go? They have no stake in this. They have no stake in this. I'm glad I predicted this, though. Of course this was going to happen. I hate that it's happening, but it happened. I fucking hate this. The child will be malformed, but that's okay. We can just run around that. And we're at the graveside to capture images of the royal family arriving and leaving, because as you all know, paparazzis are assholes. They managed to get a shot of Lucy in a fit of tears while Isaac held her. They also got an image of a young Estelle and Leonor trying to comfort their aunt with a teddy bear. They were allowed to bring that with them? The images were splashed across all Swedish media the next day, much to the understandable fury of Isaac and the royal family. Okay. Normally, Swedish media does not give a shit if it's a private funeral. When Cat, Pooh, and Sophia got the coronavirus, they were at a private funeral with the rest of the royals still in Sweden. There are no photos from that event. All the press release said was that it was a private funeral. Carrying on. After the family arrived in bumfuck Tennessee, they stopped by the Kingston house. Estelle and Leonor were excited to see where their Aunt Lucy had grown up and explored the house. Meanwhile, Sylvia set herself to cooking and doing laundry because, again, she is a woman. She is woman! Sylvia's like, Swedes don't give a shit about the monarchs. Like, god damn it, I wish the Swedes were in the chat. This would make my life so much easier. When Lucy objected, Sylvia said, My dear Lucy, please let me do this. I lost my mother in 1997. Not gonna fact check that. I know what you are feeling and going through. I want to help in this way, at least while I'm here. Madeline hugged Lucy and said, Just let her. She's not going to take no for an answer. This is something she loves to do. She loves to mother, and her instincts are driving her to mother you in a way. Lucy thanked Sylvia for all the help and gave her a big hug. When she went into tears, Sylvia just squeezed her tighter and said, I know. Remember, it is okay to cry. Let it out. Finale. Chris and Katpoo spent some time with Lucy's brother Will, while Carl Gustav and Thomas spoke. Carl Gustav even volunteered to go out to the chicken shed to help Thomas feed, if you know what I mean, and collect eggs. "Oh, you majesty, you don't have to do that. You are a guest," Thomas said. "Please call me Carl Gustav, and I want to. I grew up with a chicken shed, actually. My mother made my sisters, and I feed the chickens, clean it, and collect eggs. We actually have a hatchery at our Soliden home. I had my children do the same. Often Estelle comes to help." They are so humble and bend over backwards for Lucy. The king, queen, Katpoo, Sophia, and Estelle left on Thursday night to go back to Sweden. Madeline and her family stayed until Friday evening. She helped Lucy organize and get things ready to go to Quebec that weekend. As she left, she joked to Isaac, "You're going to wish you had kept up with your French now. The whole service will be in French, and you will be there confused. Good luck!" Madeline is still my favorite character. She is the only one here with any semblance of personality. January 19, 2016, Sweden. "The wedding will go on," led the headline of Svenska Dam. "Oh, for goodness' sake," Victoria exclaimed. "Of course it is going to go on. These people can be so stupid. No one thought it wouldn't go on." Daniel, the himbo, agreed and convinced Victoria not to say anything about it to the media at the conferences she was attending the next day. She relented, but was annoyed nonetheless. Oh, God, no. After Victoria had gone for a walk with Estelle, Daniel decided to take a look at the rest of the article out of curiosity, knowing with Victoria's pregnancy hormones that she would not let him when she got back. It said, "Svensdam can reveal the wedding between Prince Isaac and Lucy Kingston will indeed go forth this year after Lucy lost her mother on January 9th. You know, Flowey, I really appreciate that you tried up your southern accents to voice these hicks. It really adds to the immersion. Hey, sometimes you just gotta do your hick voice. I know I kinda sound like a southern chill sometimes, but, you know, it's pretty fun." The pregnancy hormones have returned, indeed. The head of the Royal Communications Department told us, "Yes, of course it will go on. The family is in a period of grief at the moment, so a date has not yet been made permanent. However, the announcements regarding the wedding will be released to the media soon." The Royal Court confirmed that Lucy's mother died from ALS, and that Isaac will remain with her as support for the time being in the States. Daniel thought to himself, they really do make a headline out of nothing. Where else would he think? Does he think towards the wall? On January 21, 2016, the Royal Court made the announcement of the details for the wedding. The press release said, "The wedding between Prince Isaac and Miss Lucille Kingston. The wedding between Prince Isaac and Miss Lucille Kingston will take place on the 1st of June 2016 at the Royal Chapel at the Royal Palace, Stockholm. The engagement between Prince Isaac and Miss Lucille Kingston was announced on the 16th of July 2015. Tradition from Sweden and America will be present in the ceremony, as well as the tribute to Mrs. Anne Kingston during the ceremony, apparently. Updated information about the wedding will be published at www.royalcourt.se, a link that actually works." Oh, God. Oh, God. This chapter's going on, and it's like fast-forwarding. We had to sit through all of the death, and now we're fast-forwarding the happy parts. On February 4, 2016, the Royal Court made the following announcement about Lucy's status. His Majesty the King has decided that Miss Lucy Kingston, after the wedding with HRH Prince Isaac, will become a member of the royal family and receive the title of HRH Princess Lucille, Duchess of Uppland. She will be known as HRH Princess Lucy. She will retain her American citizenship and gain the additional Swedish citizenship. We're done here. I can't continue this today in good conscience. Good night.